Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. Our mission at City Current is to power the good, and we do that through positive media, events, and philanthropy. This show features interviews with a mix of business and community leaders who discuss important efforts, trends, lessons learned, and ways to get involved so we can learn more about our community and work together to make a difference. Now, on to the show.
I'm your host, Andrew Bartolotta, and today we have the privilege of speaking with Jamie Hurd, the co-founder and executive director of Faithfully Restored. Jamie's journey, marked by personal loss and resilience, has inspired her to dedicate her life to lifting up women in need of care, encouragement, and community. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Can you start off by talking about how Faithfully Restored came into existence and what the vision behind it was when you and your friends started this journey?
Faithfully Restored was started, our friend group. We were in our early 30s, and as we were all having children, Jamie Hamilton found out that she could not have biological children. So as we were all having baby showers, she was struggling with infertility and later adopted. And we walked through the adoption process with her. And then in 2015, right after Heather had turned 30, she got an early cancer diagnosis. And so really heavy things were happening, and we didn't really know what to do to support each other, but we had the community there. And then later on in 2015 is when our 2.5-year-old son, William, passed away. He choked during lunch, and so it was very sudden. And as we walked through that, our friend group was there. I remember when we got back from Vanderbilt, we walked up to the porch, and sitting on our porch was a bunch of cards and a gift package from our group of friends that we had done for Jamie when she walked through the adoption process, that we had done for Heather when she was diagnosed with cancer. And then I walked up to my porch and saw those notes of encouragement and just the comfort items. And I thought, well, this is my turn. And so 6 months later, after losing William, a neighbor called me and said, "Hey, I have a friend, her 8-year-old just passed away in a car accident. And what were some things that people did for you when William passed away that we could do for Jenny Rebecca?" And so I wrote her a note and I just said, "I'm only 6 months ahead of you. This is really hard, but you are going to be okay." And I sent her a book that I had read. And so the way the Lord used that friendship, having both lost a son, was really powerful. And so the four of us, later that year, Heather relapsed within a year. And so the four of us became magnets for stories of child loss, infertility, adoption, early cancer diagnosis. And so it felt really heavy. We were there, we'd come together and be like, "Can you pray for this person? Can you pray for this person?" But we weren't, other than praying, we weren't really doing anything. And so as the years passed, we just became more and more aware of women struggling. And so 3 of us go to Fellowship Bible Church, and we were walking through James, which was an active faith series, and really kind of felt the Lord put on our heart, like, we can do something for these women the same way that your friend group cared for you. You can show up and care for others. So we're like, let's meet once a month. We decided to meet on my back porch, and we wrote notes and just sent little care items to women that we had heard about. And did that month after month for a couple months, and then thought this could really turn into something. We had no lack of women that were struggling, and just really knew personally what it meant to be seen and know that you were loved and know that there was hope in Jesus throughout those deepest valleys. So from the beginning, that's been our goal. And really, we launched in August of 2019. And ever since, we said, yes, the Lord has provided everything we've needed, whether staff, office building, donations, women that we've served. And so it's really started out of our own pain and the way that we were loved and cared for, and really wanted women everywhere across the country, no matter what they were walking through, to know they're loved, not alone, and there was hope in Jesus.
Can you tell us about some of the specific ways Faithfully Restored supports women, such as your care packages and special projects?
Absolutely. So we take in prayer requests from across the country. And most of the time, 80% of the time, that's coming in from a friend. That's you submitting a prayer request for your neighbor that just lost their spouse, or maybe your aunt in Arkansas was just diagnosed with breast cancer. And so you get on our website, faithfullyrestoredwomen.com, and submit a prayer request for that person. And then every prayer request that comes in, and they range from anxiety, depression, loss, divorce, really a lot of situations. When they come in, someone on our team writes that person back, and then we provide support. Everyone gets a care package. We're in Cool Springs, our offices, we're in the old Dave Ramsey building, and all of our care packages are made by volunteers. So you can come in and you'll get a thing that will say Jamie, loss of child. And those items, it's almost set up like a store. So a volunteer can come in. Each care package is curated individually. A handwritten note goes in everything we send. Every package is prayed over, and then we send it from our office. On top of care packages, we'll pay rent for widows. We've sent grieving moms on a trip. We truly try to meet the need of whatever it is that that person needs and how they need to see Jesus in their situation. So it's been neat over the last couple years having more and more resources to truly see a need, whether it be $1,000 counseling grant or whether it be acupuncture appointments, or we're just here in a couple of weeks, husband and wife are going to Vermont for the weekend, and they just last month had a stillbirth. And so just to provide some time away for that couple as they grieve that loss with other little kids at home, just a time to get away. So our work is very unique. We truly try to figure out what it is that that person needs and meet the need.
What goes into these packages, and how do you hope they impact the recipients, especially during the holiday season?
We know 2 of our founders have lost children. And so we know what that first year looks like after you've lost someone. And it's very difficult as everyone's preparing for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I mean, all you can think about is that empty chair at the table, of that just kind of element that you want everything to be the same, and it's just not. And so to see women in that first year is very important to us. And so, like you said, the event packed 275 care packages. We partnered with Dave Ramsey, so 18 of his volunteers came in our office and packed them. They had also already written the handwritten notes, so other employees wrote those handwritten notes. And in that care package, on that handwritten note, is just acknowledgement of this holiday looks different than you thought, and you're not alone, and you're being prayed for, and we're here for you. And then in that care package, Courtney on our team just does a really good job of intentionally finding items. So often we send incredible items, but it really is that feeling seen and loved, having a stranger pray for you, that handwritten note. But in those care packages, we have a little tea towel, we have a cardinal ornament. We partner with Lauren Dunn, a local artist here in Nashville. And so we have hers in there. We'll do chocolates. We actually partnered with a company in Ohio that has handmade chocolates that'll go in there, little gift card. So all of our packages are a little different, but we try to put in items that just have a comfort element, have a lot of our care packages, there's scripture in there, something that they can put up to remind them, even after, months after that package is gone, that little item is sitting there and be like, I am remembered. I'm not forgotten. My loved one is remembered. And so all of our care packages are different, but Courtney does a really good job of intentionally putting items in there that see them.
You mentioned that you like to educate people on how to care for friends who are struggling. What advice would you give to someone who wants to support a loved one but doesn't know how?
Absolutely. Well, one of the things I love about Faithfully Restored is we're just another component of a resource that people can reach out to. So when you have a friend that's walking through something, a lot of times you're like, I don't even know what to do. And so by submitting their name to Faithfully Restored is one way of just that continued care piece. So we just recently in Spring Hill, there's a 13-year-old that passed away, and we served all of the teachers at Thompson Station Middle School. And we just wrote them a little note, did Thrive Cosmetics, and the principal reached out. And one of his things was, this was so impactful because he feels this weight of remembering that loss and kind of continuing that. And we can take that burden away from someone and be that extra resource. And so I always tell people, submit their name, let us remember those anniversaries, let us, care for them that first year. And then also just showing up. Personally, whenever that happened, I know it's intimidating to show up for someone that's lost a child. You don't know what to say, you don't know what to do. And really, what matters, your words are not going to take away their pain, but just for that person to feel seen and loved. I always tell people people get a lot of support early on. And so that's why we don't even send a care package with loss for 2 months, because there's so much support in the beginning. And I always tell people, go ahead and put in your phone dates for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, to just check in on that person. When I truly feel like the Lord brings people to your mind and it's like, oh, I've thought about that person. Let me say a prayer or something, to reach out to them and say like, hey, I was just thinking about you. How are you doing? Or you don't even have to ask a question back. Just like, I was praying for you this morning, or the Lord put me on my heart this morning. And so I always think it's easier to not say anything, but I always remind people, even going up to someone and saying, I don't know what to say, is really meaningful. And so yeah, just the continued care piece and showing up even after that loss, specifically, I think with children and spouse, just kind of talking about them, letting them know if you thought about them, or I had a lot of friends that have kids William's age, and I'm watching them grow up. And a lot of times it'll be really meaningful for someone to say like, wonder what William would have been like, wonder if he would have been playing baseball like so-and-so is, or something like that. So, I just think being there and prayerfully considering, Lord, how should I show up for this person? If you're listening to that and in tune with that, and then just follow what the Spirit guides you to help them.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and your co-founder story and the powerful work that Faithfully Restored is doing to uplift and care for women in need. Thank you for powering the good in our community and around the globe.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me and letting me share all about it.
Today, we're honored to have Dr. Allison Quintanilla Platzmeyer, Executive Director of Empowering Neighborhood Partnerships, also known as ENP, joining us. And ENP plays a crucial role in the Edge Hill community by addressing challenges such as equity, education, jobs, and safety. Today, Dr. Platzmeyer will share the incredible work ENP is doing to strengthen communities and improve the lives of residents through innovative and impactful programs. Dr. Platzmeyer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Okay, let's start off by telling our audience about the origins of Empowering Neighborhood Partnerships and how the organization's mission has really evolved over the years.
Yeah, so ENP was originally started as Edge Hill Neighborhood Partnership in 2008. So we were started out of Edge Hill United Methodist Church with a motto of neighbors doing what neighbors do. So basically, we would conduct neighborhood needs assessments and let the neighbors drive what kind of programming they need and want. And so that led to the creation of 3 programs: our free store, which started in 2011, which was an opportunity for residents to get items that typically aren't covered by food stamps. And then that's kind of evolved over time as well. The Spot, which started out as a space for young women after school to create good relationships with mentors and learn about healthy relationships, learn about college and graduation. And then that has since expanded to 5th to 12th grade and boys and girls, or all genders really. And then affordable housing advocacy in 2018. So as Edge Hill has been rapidly gentrifying, we have become the affordable housing subzone captains of the Promise Zone. So we participate in the planning process. We help negotiate community benefits agreements and really try to strive for inclusion of affordable housing in every new development that's coming throughout the Edge Hill community. In 2023, we changed to Empowering Neighborhood Partnerships because a lot of our residents have been pushed out. Our physical headquarters has even been pushed out of Edge Hill because of the gentrification. And so we're technically 8 minutes outside of Edge Hill now. So even though about 70% of our residents are still coming to our location, we've picked up a lot of people from the Nolensville corridor and a lot of the immigrant and refugee population as well. And so we embrace this new name to reflect that expanded scope.
Well, I'm glad that you were still able to keep sort of the acronym, and really at the basis, when you're changing your name, you're really um, advancing the empowerment and the advocacy that you're able to do across neighborhoods as you empower them. So, empowering neighborhood partnerships to me is a beautiful name for really what you're doing at the helm. You talked about some of your key programs in the Housing Advocacy Initiative. Why or how does this initiative really contribute to the mission of building a more vibrant community?
Yeah, so I mean, housing is really at the forefront of everybody's stability, right? So, in addition to our name change, we looked at our model, and so we moved towards a more collective impact model for poverty alleviation. So, looking at food security and resource security, education, workforce development, and affordable housing, and how those four things work together to help lift people out of poverty. And housing is one of the key aspects, right? So when you don't have stable housing, it's difficult to get to a job. It's difficult to, get to school because that's one of your primary needs. That's why places like Safe Haven have the housing first model, right? You have to get housing before you can get on your feet in any other way. And right now, even if you have housing, most of our residents are spending more than 50% of their disposable income on housing, which is just ridiculous. In Edge Hill alone, 40% of the residents live below the poverty line. So to have the median home price be 600,000, like it's just not congruent with what the neighborhood needs to be able to live a sustainable life. And so, in addition to one, ensuring that housing affordability and availability and inventory, we're also looking at those community benefits pieces. So, as developers are coming in, how are they giving back to the community and the resources that we so desperately need? So, one of those things for Edge Hill in particular has been a grocery store. Edge Hill is a food desert and a food swamp. So, there's no grocery store in the Edge Hill proper. And then there's an abundance of fast food restaurants. And so being able to give people an option to find high quality produce and affordable high quality produce is very important. And so there was one developer that was considering putting in a grocery store, but it was going to be like a 1,200 square foot Sprouts. And it's like, okay, that's not going to be accessible for the majority of, the Edge Hill neighborhoods. So I would say for the affordable housing advocacy, it's one, preserving that inventory of affordable housing and increasing it, finding the sweet spot of affordability, and then negotiating those community benefits and holding developers accountable for the community benefits that they've agreed to provide. So like some developers may say, we're going to provide 400 units, but then when they actually get into the nitty gritty of how they're going to do it, it's not an integrated like mixed income community. For example, there was one development where they were going to have 4 towers and they wanted to put all of the affordable housing in one tower of the development. It's like, no, like you're basically creating concentrated poverty. The point of having a multi-income mixed development is to create that sense of community and have all of the residents kind of intermingled. But they were trying to get all of the subsidies first and then use that to finance the rest of the project. And so being able to really challenge developers and say, no, like that's not how you're going to be able to best serve the community, I think is an important role that we play.
Yeah, absolutely. That is such an important role. And I imagine that, of course, gentrification and Nashville have a sort of long history now for several decades as economic development is just driving and they are just building and building across Nashville. But it's no stranger to some other large cities as well. And I can imagine that for those cities that don't have a organization like ENP, I mean, they're basically at the mercy of whoever comes in and decides to build these ginormous towers and just sort of like move people out. So the work that ENP is doing is monumental because you have these families that have been in these neighborhoods for generations, and then just because there is ease of moving bulldozers in and creating these large multifamily places and businesses doesn't mean that you're not affecting generations worth of people that have made this community their home. And so I think that's such an important part of the affordable housing advocacy that ENP is doing. I mean, that's an entire nonprofit in itself. But in addition to that, you have these additional programs. You mentioned the Spot, which sounds like an incredible initiative. Talk about how it helps students grow both emotionally and academically.
The Spot is our after school program. So it typically runs Monday through Thursday, 4 to 6 p.m. And we used to have a community-based location. The last 2 years, we've been doing school-based locations, but we're hoping to move back to a community-based location because it was kind of this home away from home for students, right? It was a place that they could come after school, cook a meal, really build community. They could decorate the space like they wanted. But really, it's that a lot of the youth in the neighborhood, they have adverse childhood experiences. They may have parents that are dealing with significant mental health struggles or just the stress of poverty and haven't been able to be as present parent figures as they need. And so being able to connect them with mentors and other trusted adults helps them to create some of those relationships and be able to foster some of that more secure attachment that they may be missing in their home life. And then on the emotional intelligence side, when you have gone through a lot of adverse childhood experiences, it can be really difficult to be able to identify your emotions. You may be a lot more reactive. You may struggle with focusing at school because you're, just have a lot of internal turmoil. And so being able to talk to them about things like conflict management, about helping to de-escalate when you're feeling angry, because that leads to a lot of discipline issues at school as well. And then if there's a discipline issue, then they're pulled out of school, which affects them academically. So being able to really show them some of those like emotional regulation pieces, what healthy relationships look like. Again, if they grew up in a household where maybe there was not the healthiest relationships as examples, they're going to get into relationships like that. And so part of the neighborhood needs assessment that led to the Spot was a lot of teen pregnancies, a lot of youth that their boyfriends were abusive. And so being able to help them, okay, like what is a healthy relationship? What does safe sexual practices look like? Whether that's abstinence or protection, and really just letting them have all those options, because I think a lot of times they just don't have the information. They don't have people that they can go to trust and have those kind of safe conversations with. And then on the academic side, we do tutoring as well. So the mentors not only provide them with that emotional support, but also like homework support. And as we have moved into the new community where we have a lot more refugees, we've been working with them on like English. And so a lot of them have moved from maybe failing English to suddenly, having a B or an A because they're just not able to get the one-on-one time and attention during the school day. And they're just getting further and further behind throughout the school year. And so when they're participating in the Spot, they're getting that extra time to really have kind of one-on-one, here's the things that I'm struggling with. And we found that to be really monumentally life-changing for them.
One of the another program and initiative is the Free Store, which offers more than just material goods. It really fosters a sense of community. Tell us how that program strengthens neighborly relationships.
A big piece of the Free Store is our community breakfast. So at the beginning of the Free Store, there's a big breakfast where all the neighbors can sit and have a meal while they're waiting to go shop. And that creates an opportunity for a lot of communities that might have not met each other before to get to speak to each other while they're waiting. So again, we have like a bunch of different kind of pockets of communities throughout the Nolensville corridor that the Free Store is just like their place where they meet up. And so they get the opportunity to exchange ideas, share about their cultures, talk about the unique challenges they're having within their neighborhood or subdivision. And so we found that to be a really nice kind of just meeting space and ability to foster new connections. And as since there are similar challenges amongst the shoppers, they might be able to say, hey, I've been struggling, or I'm looking for a job, do you know a new place? And just building those connections. One of the things that we've noticed United Way talks about the 2-gen approach, and one of the big things in poverty alleviation is building a social network and a social fabric.
What puts a smile on your face when you look at the work that you and your team of volunteers are doing every day?
I mean, we have seen just like some transformative life changes for some of our shoppers. So we have a shopper that's been with us for 12 years, and she just recently got a really great financial opportunity to where she's like, I'm going to be set for the next 10, 15 years. And I would like to pay it back to the free store, and be able to, help people that are in the same situation that I am. I think that's one thing that's really nice too, is that a lot of our shoppers also volunteer. It's a great community, of both receiving and giving back. And then on the youth side, I mean, we've had some youth that have been employed through our career exploration program over the last couple of years. So they were like an experienced worker, and now they're an intern, and then they're applying to come back and be an employee with us. And so really seeing that growth of them over 10 years and building their families has been just amazing. So being able to see that kind of long-term impact of our programs and how it is making a difference in the cycle for these families puts a smile on my face for sure.
Thanks for powering the good in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the City Current Show. To learn more about each of the guests, to share your stories of others, leading by example, or to watch past episodes and more media focused on good news, visit our website at citycurrent.com or follow along on social media using the handle or hashtag citycurrent. We look forward to seeing you again soon, and thank you for all you do to power the good.